Course 1, lesson 35, we're going to write decimals as fractions, which is easy to do, and then read and write our decimal numbers. We actually sort of got started on this in lesson 34, which is a very connected lesson. I kind of started to talk about some of these things already, how we say and write a decimal properly, and that's going to lead you to already get these first ones easily, the decimal to become fractions. Otherwise, just remembering our place value chart might be all you need too. If you see a 3 after the decimal, if I say make that a fraction, all you have to do is know what is its place value. It is in the tenths place, and we had that place value chart from lesson 34 that showed its tenths is the 10 denominator, so really it's worth 3/10. Okay? You just take the digit itself and then put it over whatever the corresponding place value denominator is, and it was a tenth. If it was over here, it would have been over 100. The way it's written right now, I'd call this 33 hundredths. Making sense, I hope? Not terribly difficult. Let's take a look at what else it's got for us here. I like this visual to show what 3/10, a decimal 3, really looks like. These are tenths, and we're shading in 3/300ths, shade in 3, little tiny squares, 3/1000ths, minuscule little squares, really visualizing what's going on. And count up your zeros in the denominator 1000 here. How many zeros you got? 3. Notice it equals the number of decimal places in the decimal. 1, 2, 3. The only thing that doesn't match is this 3 here and that 1 there. You put the 3 up here and stick a 1 in the front. A quart is a fourth of a gallon, or 0.25 gallons, or 25 hundredths of a gallon. If you can learn how to say that, you've got your answer, 25 hundredths, 25 over 100. So write it as a fraction. The decimal 25 hundredths has 2 decimal places, so we put 2 zeros in the denominator. Another way to think of it. Feel free to pause, rewind, or just look at the book and read longer to understand and really digest what I'm saying. A kilometer is about 6/10 of a mile, so write 6/10 as a decimal number. I appreciate the real-world context here, that's kilometers to miles. The denominator is 10, so the decimal number has 1 decimal place because there's 1 0 in the 10. That's the way they're using shortcut. Or you can know that the tenths place, right, is often shown as 1 over 10, right? Tenths. So when I see it in the tenths, or when I see something over 10, I know it belongs in the tenths place. Fair? All right. So how we read these can get kind of picky. We read 23 hundredths, that looks like this, as 23 hundredths because the last digit is in the hundredths place. The last non-zero digit to the right of the decimal here is the 3 in the hundredths, so we say hundredths. To read a mixed decimal number, you read the whole number, then and for the decimal, then find your last non-zero digit to know what you're going to name it, and pretend there is no decimal for that last part, and just say what it would be without the decimal. It'd be 4, and then you remember it's hundredths. Let's practice. Length of a football field is this, miles. How do I write that with words? The 0 to the left of the decimal means we don't have to read anything there. We won't even have to read for the decimal. There is no whole number. It's not a mixed number. So we're really just worried about this right here. Let's just forget about this. Now I've got, typically, if I saw just this, I would not read the 0. It's not worth anything. I would just read the 5, 7. I'd say that's 57, right? This is 57. So I'm going to say 57. Understand all the steps I just went through? Now, what place value am I in on the last non-zero digit, the 7? I'm 3 to the right. Remember our place value chart? 3, 1, 2, 3 to the right is the thousandths place. So I say 57 thousandths, like so. That is the process. And if you've got to do this and you're unsure how to do it, you can just rewind to this part of the video where we just went through the step-by-step. How about an inch is about 2.5 centimeters, comes exactly to 2.54. Let's use words to write it. See how we have to write, we have to spell two correctly, T-W-O. Remember, what is and in the place of up here? It's that decimal. The decimal, we say and. And then we read this part as if it was just a number, right? We just read it like it was like this. Okay. Without the decimal, I would just say 54. And then label it by the place value of the last non-zero digit to the right of that decimal. And it's the second over, so I call it hundredths. Hundredths, you still spell it with a D, but you don't really pronounce it. 2 and 54, notice the hyphen, hundredths. Read it with me. 2 and 54 hundredths. 54 hundredths. How about if they give you words, can you write it as numbers? I think this is more fun and easy because you don't have to write all the words. 21, I see. Just write it like it would be normally. Now you see this TH. You know that's to the right of a decimal, right? It's over here. Hundredths, which means I have to have 2. The 1 has to be in the hundredths, or 2 away from the decimal. So I put the decimal here. I don't need any filler. That's as a decimal. This would be as a fraction, right? 21 hundredths. That's review. And 15 and 2/10 as a decimal. 15 and 2/10. Let's just dissect this. 15, easy, and 2/10. Need a tenths place, and that's it. And a 2 goes there. Writing it as a mixed number would look and 2/10. See, both decimals and fractions are showing parts of a whole. It's just decimals are what you get on your calculator, and fractions show it maybe easier to understand with numerator denominator. Most fractions don't do it, or most calculators don't do it. It hasn't mentioned, but what if it said 15 and 2 hundredths? Okay, that throws a little curveball. Any idea why? Well, let's try it. 15 and they said a 2. Now hundredths is the 1, 2, second place to the right, which means I need something here. What do I fill it in with? Any idea? That's actually a placeholder 0. Good for you? I hope so. Let's try. These aren't too terribly difficult, I would hope. Let's try all of these lesson practices. There are more on the next page. Oh, there are. Let's do all A through I and then pick one from each of the last 2 sections. So I think that's going to be 11 in all, but they're quick. Very important that we feel confident. Thank you.